really low tech tonight. It's going to be me talking to you. I did put this in the chat already, so you can take it and copy and paste it where you would like. And again, there's going to be no pictures, no video, just me talking to you. So if you need a break to kind of stretch or shake it off, we'll get right back to it. Wonderful presentations tonight. I'm going to touch on some of the things that other people have talked about. I'm going to reference those. So some of this you have heard. We're just going to be talking about it in a slightly different way. And I'm talking about watering practices for shrubs and planters and gardens and trees, the whole nine. Anything that may need water. If you were here last year, I mean, in Iowa, you know we had a very hot summer, one of the hottest summers on record. We've had a couple of those, and I doubt if they're going away. We've also had a drought, and it was a humdinger of a drought last year. It was pretty bad. Things were pretty dry for a very long time. When we finally got through the drought, it rained in September, I think, and then everything like lilacs rebloomed because they thought it was spring. So water definitely affects how our plants grow. So I'm going to keep this simple. I'm going to go through them. We'll have plenty of time for questions. So best watering practice, number one, water where the roots are. Okay, watering leaves like pouring water over your head because you're thirsty. Now, if you say if it rains, well, again, rain is its own deal. If you are watering, whether watering cans or hoses or whatever, water where the plant meets the soil. If this is a tree or a pot of geraniums or whatever you have, water where the soil meets the plant. That's going to be the best use of your water. Overhead sprayers, you're wasting a lot of water. You're getting a lot of water, especially city water that is going to have the salts and the chemicals in it that's going to get on the leaves and the flowers and be disruptive and could cause issues with mildew and spots. So keep that water low. Keep it where the soil meets the plant. Check before watering. It sounds simple, but we don't always do that. And again, this goes for anything. We think most often, obviously, of pots and checking them before you water. The best soil tester, and you can buy water testers, you can buy fancy things, and you can do things. The best thing, honestly, is right here. Use that finger. You don't need to stick it all the way in, just, up to the first knuckle even the top of the soil. If you put your finger in it, comes out dry, it needs to be watered. If it comes out and there's soil attached to your finger, let it go another day or two, okay? Don't just water because every day at 9 o'clock I water my plants. They may not need it. This goes for the ones in your beds too, and your trees and shrubs. Check them before you just turn the hose on, because there's no use. A, it's wasting water, and B, they probably don't need it. So look for signs of distress and wilting. If it's wet, leave it set. So don't just water because you think you need to. Now, on the wilting part, those hot summer afternoons we get calls here at Iowa State Extension because my plants look wilted. And again, I always say if you sat outside all day and it's 95 degrees, you would look wilted too. So overnight, they're probably going to rebound and they're going to look just great by the morning. Sometimes, though, that is their sign of what they're doing when they do that is protecting themselves. They can't walk into the shade or take a dip in the pool or go inside in the air conditioning. So they're going to wilt to protect what moisture they have. But it could also be they need to be watered. So that is one of the easiest signs, is wilting and drooping. And then it's okay to give them a good drink. When should you water? Well, water in the morning is best. There's less evaporation. The plant is less stressed. However, and here's my caveat, if you get off work and you come home and your plants are dry, if everything is looking cruddy, or honestly, if you go to work early in the morning, or if you're like me, you don't allow enough time to get yourself and your plants ready, it is better to water in the late afternoon or into the evening than not water at all. Especially really hot. It's not going to sit a long time. It's going to soak right in. If you have potted plants of various sizes, they can dry out in half a day. So by the time even you get home, you might be watering in the morning. You might be watering when you get home from work or done with your day. So don't not water in the evening if they're look dry. If you need a drink, they probably need a drink. So keep that in mind. It's been a long day for them too. They've sat outside. If it's windy, it's worse. If it's a very dry, if it's the higher temperatures, they're going to dry out. They're going to need some water. So do not be afraid to give them a drink. When you do water, water slowly. Drip irrigation. If you haven't heard of it or if you don't have it, it's a wonderful thing. They sell drip irrigation hoses. Some people have taken hoses and made their own with small pinholes in the hose, and they turn it on and they let it run for a designated amount of time, might be up to an hour, where it's very slowly getting from the hose, dripping directly into the soil, very slowly, very much sinking in. It's great. It's great for the plant. It's great for the environment. It's great for, you're not watering what you shouldn't be watering. You're putting the water directly at the base of the plant. No fire hoses. When I say that, I mean, we all, have the attachments on the end of our hoses. Or a lot of times we put our thumb over and we think faster is better. So we want to just blast it like firemen out there watering, like we're putting out a fire. You're not putting out a fire. You're just watering your lawn or your trees or your pots. If you're watering a tree or shrub, they can probably take a little harsher water. If you're watering your pots, you're going to disrupt the soil. You're going to disrupt the roots. You're going to end up with spatters of soil and whatnot all around them. So try not to blast them. It's easy to do, especially if you're having your kids or grandkids help water. It's a temptation, but invest in one of those that has the nozzles that has the different clicks on it, and it can go from a mist to a rain to a lot of different things. Experiment with those. Find the ones that are in the lighter settings. You're not washing your car. You're not putting out a fire. You're just watering your plants. So slow down and enjoy it. Personally, I find when I get home from work, I love to go in and change in from my work clothes to a pair of grubby shorts and a t-shirt or a tank top and water for about an hour. It's still warm. It's 5 o'clock at night in the summertime. That's my time to get out there and slowly stand there and take in nature, sweat a little bit, hear the birds, be with my own thoughts. So slow down and enjoy that time. Make every drop count. Again, water at the base, not the surrounding areas. So if you have sprinklers, whether they're the sprinklers that do this or the ones that pop up out of the ground or the ones that you move from place to place, know what you're watering. So if you have those that are watering everything, you're going to be watering everything and not just your garden, not just your flower beds, not just your trees. So figure out where you're watering and what you want to water. Don't just let it go random. Okay. Also, again, if you have sprinklers, we've all seen it. We've driven by, and it's usually a business that has them on a timer, and it's raining outside, and the sprinklers are on. Now, if it's a big company, they can afford the water bill more than you can. So don't waste your water, whether you're in town or in the city, whatever. Conserve what you can and only water where you need to. So you might want to rethink, and I know there are advances in sprinklers now. They can point just one way, water one specific area, and you're not watering everything and everyone around you, okay? If you're watering and you see there's as much water on your driveway as there is on the flower beds, your driveway doesn't need to be watered. So how can you redirect that water and use it better? Water or, don't overwater. Okay, again, don't waste it on wet leaves or soggy roots. A lot of plants, you'll hear the phrase, they don't like wet feet. That just means soggy roots causes damage. It causes funguses, it causes diseases. A lot of plants will die. It's easier to kill a plant with too much water than not enough water. again, if you have plants that are, if we get a heavy rain time last year, and again, I've been doing this for a while, I got some new planters, got a new planter, forgot that it didn't have holes in the bottom of it, and it rained, and I went outside and there was this much water at least sitting on top of the plants, and they looked rough. So I got my drill out, and with some help, I put holes in the bottom, and then it was a plastic planter. So I literally was out there hugging it, squeezing the water out of it. So did it look stupid? Yes. Did it help? Yes. In some cases, you might even need to take the plants out and let it dry out or put them in something else temporarily. So don't just water to water. If you're watering your pots, your planters, stop. You should water until it runs out, but then stop. When I get it to the roots, when it starts running out, stop, or you're going to be losing nutrients, you're going to be losing soil, you're going to be overwatering. Again, check it and see. Keep an eye on what it's doing. Again, you might be watering a couple times a day when it gets really hot. 7, and I love this one, to water or not to water. This I'm talking about mostly lawns. And drought last year, a lot of bad looking lawns in the Cedar Valley and around Iowa. Yes, your lawn will look bad if you don't water. People say my lawn looks dead. It's not dead, it's dormant. That's its design. That's what it does. Now, if we had a summer of decent temperatures and decent rainfall, it might look good all summer long. It's, really thick and lush in the spring, and then it has that perfect phase, which we all love, that we take pictures of and want to show our friends. And then we get to a drought phase. Once you start watering, continue watering, but do not start unless you're going to continue, okay? Because you're just going to prolong the inevitable. It's okay if your lawn is brown during a drought, because everybody else's lawn is brown as well. So more likely you're going to have some neighbor who will have a really green lawn, and they will spend the time and the money to make it look perfect, even if everybody else's is brown. So decide who you want to be. It's not a mark against you. You're not a bad person because you have a brown lawn during a drought, okay? So just be mindful of that. One thing I will say, during a drought, you may be watering things you normally would not. Over the last 2 years, the last 2 summers, we've actually told people that I don't like to water perennials. I'll put them in the first year and I'll water them. Shrubs, trees, first 1 or 2 years, they need more water than you think. Okay, they really need to get established. After that, I don't like to water those perennials. I always say you're on your own. I don't like high maintenance plants or people, so you're on your own. However, last year we saw shrubs that were looking very dry. We saw trees that were showing signs of stress. We encourage people to get out there and water the things you might normally not water. Even if you're not watering your lawn, plants like the perennials, water the shrubs, water the trees to get you through a drought. The money you spend in the water is really going to pay off in the cost of replanting the shrubs or replanting the trees and the time it takes to regrow a tree, because it's just had, will it kill it in 1 year? No. Will it make it weaker? Yes. And then if we get those nasty beetles and it starts devouring it, it's going to be a tough year. So do what you do to save those important things. You won't regret it, I guarantee you. Don't let them dry out. Now, when I say don't let them dry out, I mean don't let them be hanging over the sides. If this is a planter, if this is stuff in your garden that looks absolutely completely withered, you've waited too long. You got to strike that balance between too much watering and not enough, okay? So check them out, check them on a regular basis. Again, this could be your morning routine, this could be your after work routine. What they need. If you're going to be gone, ask a neighbor. Now, you could set timers, I mean, for sprinklers and stuff, but even your pots, your planters, trees and shrubs, if you're going to be gone for a week and taking a vacation, or if you're sick, if you're not going to be around for some reason, involve your neighbors or somebody that you know that can come and do some watering. It really is, you don't want to come home after a week and realize that nobody watered your stuff. You're going to lose a lot of it that you don't need to. So don't let them dry out thinking, they'll be fine till I get back. Even if you're gone over a weekend, a hot weekend, 4th of July last year would have killed a lot of plants while you were at the lake watering yourself. So keep that in mind. It's okay to ask for help when it comes to plants. Use mulch to conserve moisture. We talked a lot about mulch, and mulch can be a lot of things. It can be wood bark mulch. It can be, there's a lot of substances that are great mulch. This stuff you can buy at the store in a bag. They usually have it on great sales. 10 bags for, or 5 bags for $10. It can be, with a lot of the trees that were downed in the area, you can get it free from a lot of places. It can be stuff you make yourself. Mulch is your friend. We all know you can mulch around trees. It keeps away weeds. You don't need to mow around it. You're not hitting the roots, and it conserves a lot of moisture, especially during a hot, dry period. It's going to trap some of that moisture where it needs to be and not let it evaporate. So it's going to cut down on your watering. Did you know you can also use mulch in your planters? What? I know. We don't always think about this, but if you have planters of flowers or even vegetables, go ahead and try mulch. It does the same thing it does on trees or around shrubs. It's going to reduce splashback. First of all, if you do get a rain or water that comes down and the soil splashes back up, mulch can reduce that. It will increase the weeds that might drop in and start up. It can reduce watering. Now, obviously, do this once the plant has established itself. If you're doing starters, if you're transplanting it from a pot into a planter and they're all established, do it then. If you're starting with seeds, you're going to let it go until the plants are tall enough so you don't keep those seeds from growing. But mulch is underused. It's underutilized. It, again, has so many wonderful features. It's cosmetic, and it really makes good sense for your watering. So do not be afraid to use mulch, and experiment with your mulches, what you can find this year. Maybe the color or the type. There's so many great mulches out there that you can try. Not as a person, but more in your garden. Shade reduces watering needs, obviously. Now, if you don't have a lot of shade, it's hard to grow a tree in the summer. We get that. But if you're putting in a new flower bed, try to plant so it gets morning sun and afternoon shade. This, again, after the last couple years, I have a lawn that has a lot of morning sun, a lot of midday sun, but is shaded in the afternoon. I can tell you for sure the part of the lawn and the what flowers and what shrubs look better throughout the summer. It's those that get some shade. So when you're putting in a new flower bed or going to set pots or design an area of your garden, try to do it. And by the way, if you're going to be outside in the evening and you want to be in your garden, you want to have some lawn chairs out there, a bench, someplace to sit or read or enjoy a cocktail, having that shade is going to make you feel good too. So where vegetables are going to need a lot more sun, still that afternoon sun that we have in Iowa, if you know, 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, even 7 o'clock at night sometimes can be the hottest part of the day. Going slightly off topic here, sun tolerant versus heat tolerant. When they say a plant is sun tolerant or sun loving, that doesn't always imply that it loves the amount of heat we have. Now, if you're in San Diego, California, a sun-loving plant, sun out there is not as hot as sun in Iowa in the afternoon. So look for sun-loving, shade-tolerant, sun-tolerant, but also consider heat. Heat can do more damage to a plant than too much sun. So part two of that was, if you have planters and pots and it's a really hot spell, and these are planters that might be on the driveway or on a back porch or on a deck, or pots, in area during, just to get yourself over the hump when we have those really absurdly hot days and it stays hot at night. Push them if you have shade of it, an overhang. But a lot of times I'll move my planters underneath trees during the hot spells. It looks nice, and they honestly think how good we feel when we go into the shade of a tree during a hot spell. So do not be afraid to move them, if you can do so without hurting yourself, obviously, into the shade for a while. And then move them back out when the heat wave has passed. Longer is better. We've heard a lot of talk about lawns. I know Emily just talked about keeping the lawns a little bit longer. Keep lawns a bit longer as the heat rises and the rainfall decreases. So no crew cuts. Now in the spring, yes, our lawns are going to look lush and great. You're going to be mowing a lot, and they're, no matter what you do, they're going to grow overnight and be super. As the rain decreases, as the heat decreases, those short, if your lawn is too short, it's going to start to show it. It's amazing to me as I drive around, and when I drive to see family, I see especially a lot of people who have maybe places in the country who have more to mow. And I grew up where we had 5 hours of mowing a week. The temptation is to mow it as short as you can. If you're scraping ant hills and bumps, you're mowing too low. 3 inches is good. Is going to protect. Blades of grass actually shade each other. Now you think of one little blade of grass isn't doing much, but think of a group of people. If you're standing in a group of people, this person is shading this person shading that person. Same thing happens with grass. So by keeping them longer, they're actually providing shade to each other. So when they're super short, they're not doing that. They're going to dry out. They're going to be brown. They're going to be crunchy. Yeah, going to cause some damage, long-term damage to your lawn. So be careful of that. Do not fight the urge to mow too low, even if it means you might be mowing one more time a month. It really is better to keep it a little bit longer. One I threw in that's not on here that I thought of late: small planters and hanging planters, hanging baskets, dry out quicker. So please consider, if you are, I have a lot of potted annuals. Some hanging baskets. Baskets might be best again with morning sun rather than afternoon. I always have 1 or 2 friends who inevitably get some a hanging basket of petunias or a fern, and they put it where the afternoon sun hits. They probably keep it too high so they really don't see it, and that's the door they don't use. And they end up, we call it the brown octopus, that you see these brown long tentacles coming out of this basket like an octopus. That used to be petunias. They dry out quicker. There is air is hitting them on all sides. The smaller the pot, the more it takes. So considering maybe with the heat and the lack of rain we have, and for water conservation, maybe you go away from some of your smaller pots and you create bigger, a little more wow pots. So consider having maybe 3 bigger pots instead of 6 smaller pots. You're going to save yourself a lot of watering. Aesthetically, you can do some really creative stuff with them. Or if it's just a large pot of geraniums, you're going to get a lot less watering. You're going to need a lot less watering, and you get a lot more bang for your buck. And again, mulch them. Mulch those big planters. Mulch your hanging planters if you can. It's going to save water. It's going to keep them healthier and happier, and going to save you some work. So that's what I have on our water conservation. Carrie says, I can take this, Josh. Carrie says her lawn is pretty